Alright, what's going on everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So in this one we are taking a look at our Day 1 X-23 deck theory crafts. X-23 has been probably the most hyped up card of the month. People love their destroy decks, and she looks to be a great addition to it. So we're going to take a look at some Day 1 decks and go over if this card is worth picking up. X-23 is a 1-cost 2-power that reads when this card is discarded or destroyed, regenerate it at a random location and you get +1 energy next turn. Being able to ramp out cards while beating our destroy effects seems like a really powerful addition to the game, especially when you consider the fact that we can reuse the effect over and over as long as we have ways to destroy her. On top of X-23 being a very powerful card in her own right, this is a very lucrative Spotlight Cash week as it features Silk, which has been a top performer in recent weeks in a variety of decks, and Nebula, who is one of the other best 1-drops in the game. X-23 is a Series 5 card, so I do recommend going for caches for her if you can instead of tokens, as I think your tokens are often better saved for Series 4 cards. But regardless, I think this is going to be one a lot of people want to pick up, myself included. Before we dive on into the decks here, I do want to mention the article, link in the description below, from Safety Blade. He did a great job with a bunch of write-ups and cool decks for us to take a look at today, so highly recommend checking that out. Starting it off, we have a Deadpool Destroy deck featuring the Season Pass card Dakin and the newly buffed Forge. Deadpool makes a lot of sense alongside X-23, as one of the issues Deadpool has had previously is it's not always easy to fit in the extra 1 energy to play him alongside your destroy effects. So with X-23, we can blow her up, get an extra energy for the next turn, and then be more easily able to fit in our Deadpool on turns we would otherwise have to play differently. Not too much else to say about this one. We're running all the good destroy cards, so Carnage, Monger, Venom, and Deathlock. American Chavez for some more consistency, as these decks highly value being able to get down their early cards early on in the game. Dakin, that can go a little bit taller as well as feed into our destroy fodder. Sabretooth as another effect that we can use to destroy and keep bringing back just to destroy again. And Death as our additional payoff to help close out the late game. Another interesting thing we can do with this style of deck is make it a Sarah deck and use X-23 in order to cheat out Sarah on turn 4, so we get a whole extra turn of enabling the 1-cost reduction. Beast has some really powerful synergy here with Deadpool, as if you bounce Deadpool with Beast, he will cost 0 for the rest of the game, so even if we aren't able to get our X-23 ramp off, we can still have a free Deadpool that we can play on essentially every turn. And Hood has some added synergy here as well, as we can bounce the Hood to get another demon and just blow it up whenever we don't want it anymore. Another direction you can go with Destroy is Nimrod. Nimrod, I think, is going to be the premier thing you want to be cheating out with your X-23. Being able to get Nimrod down on turn 4 allows you a whole other turn of being able to blow him up and spread him across the board. Shuri has been particularly powerful with Nimrod as you make him 12 power, and unlike other big things, he is not vulnerable to Shang-Chi, because if the opponent blows him up, he'll just spawn back at 2 other locations. The fact that we can ramp out Nimrod earlier on turn 4 allows us to spread him around on turn 5, and then use Zola to blow him up again and make even more copies on the final turn. Destroyer acts as another way we can also blow him up on the final turn of the game, and get more copies around while also putting a big power thing into play. Iron Lad is a particularly interesting include here, as it gives us other ways of copying our powerful effects, such as Nimrod and Zola most notably, but even Shuri as well. Being able to use Iron Lad to essentially get a extra Nimrod on turn 4 sometimes can be incredibly powerful. And we have a slightly different version of the deck here, where if you don't want to go as tall with the Shuri package, but you do want to get in another destroy effect in Killmonger and another payoff in Death, this is another direction you can go with and just kind of rely on Forge to be your main Nimrod buffer. Discard is the other archetype that can make use of this new card, starting off with a fairly traditional discard list. However, we are including Dakin here, and we're also using Killmonger as a bit of additional tech, not only to buff up our Dakin, deal with our opponent's 1-drops, but also blow up our own X-23 when needed if she does end up on the board. However, I expect we're traditionally going to be just discarding her with things like Colleen, Gambit, or MODOK most of the time. She's definitely not the star of this version of the deck, but might be a nice bonus include in order to ramp out some of your powerful cards like Dracula or MODOK a turn early. The next deck we have here is one of my favorite of the bunch, and it is a Sarah Miracle style of deck Now, traditionally, these Sarah decks have relied very heavily on tech cards like Shang-Chi and Enchantress to close out the game, but instead of doing that in this version, we are just going all out with a ton of power on the final turn, and hopefully throwing priority so our opponent cannot easily interact with it. Colleen Wing makes her way into the Sarah deck here, not only as a way to discard X-23, but also our Shard from Dakin, and just as a really decently statted 1-drop post-Sarah reduction. X-23 also serves the benefit of being able to be played in the early game, blown up with turn 3 with Killmonger to be able to play our Sarah a whole turn early, for an extra turn of cost reduction. Even after his nerf, Hitmonkey is still a really powerful card in combination with Mysterio on the final turn to put out a ton of power, and Bishop has really good synergy with this as well, getting a bunch of buffs for all the Mysterio clones. Kitty Pryde and Angela are still the dynamic duo that puts out a ton of power throughout the course of the game, and Silk makes her way in as a really powerful card to play on the final turn after the Sarah reduction. Then we have everyone's favorite Queen of RNG, Hela. X-23 and Swarm are our main targets from Colleen here, giving us either extra energy when needed, or more free things to toss away into the Lockjaw to hopefully pull out other big things. The other nice thing about X-23 here is if you don't really need to use her for the energy effect, you can just toss her away into Lockjaw in the hopes of pulling out a much bigger card. Gambit gives us a way to deal with some of our opponent's threats, while also discarding their stuff to feed the Hela, and Jubilee acts as an additional ramp piece here to hopefully cheat out one of our bigger things if we don't get Lockjaw, or just in a different non-Lockjaw lane. And then another version of the Hela deck here, this one I think is my favorite, and this includes a small high evolutionary package of Wasp and the Hulk. Idea with this one is very similar to a lot of the other Lockjaw decks, where we are basically using Wasp just as a free thing to toss into the Lockjaw, and Hulk as another thing that can either pop out of the Lockjaw or be discarded and then brought back later on with Hela. The rest of the deck is pretty similar to the first version. However, we do add in Lady Sif as an additional way to discard our other big threats to hopefully feed our Hela. And then to close it out, we have the two decks that look to be potentially the most consistent uses for X-23, and that is Thanos Destroy decks. Thanos Destroy has been the most popular version of the archetype for a while now, and X-23 makes a ton of sense as a very natural inclusion here, as Thanos Destroy always is trying to blow up its own stuff. It really likes being able to ramp out Nimrod early, or even maybe our Null or Thanos. Wave gives us some added utility going into the final turn of the game if we're ahead, so the opponent can only play one card only. And Yondu helps potentially mill a key card from the opponent while also pumping up our Null and reducing our death. And if you're an enjoyer of the big G-Man himself, this is another version of Thanos Destroy you could try. A lot of people don't really expect the Galactus anymore, so you can often take people off guard, and X-23 acts as a really convenient way to get another ramp piece to cheat him out before the final turn of the game, so that way you can slam another big threat like Null or Death. We even have Iron Lad in this deck as another way of copying our potentially powerful effects, ranging from the Thanos Stones, Nimrod, Wolverine, etc., or even in a rare occasion, Galactus, to pull off a real surprise destroying of the lanes. And that's going to wrap it up for our Day 1 X-23 decks. Again, highly recommend checking out the article, link in the description below, from Safety Blade if you want to import any of these decks or just get a little read up on the explanations behind them. That's going to wrap it up for this video though. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned here at Marvel Snap Zone for all your Marvel Snap content. I'm Zombies, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.